It won't let me record it.
Welcome to the Driven Moms Answering Adversity interview series, Stories of Success Through Setbacks from Mom Elevated. Together, we can shine a light on how normal challenges and struggles are, along with how we can overcome and rise above them. Today, we have Kendra to share her story with us. I'm so excited. And can you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about you and your story?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Kendra Bolden. I am the founder of Soulpreneur Life. A little bit about me is I was not always an entrepreneur, a soulpreneur. I actually started, oh my word, I joined the Army first. That was my first big grown-up career, right? So I had some other jobs in between, obviously working as a teenager and whatnot. But that transition from active duty Army life into becoming an entrepreneur, and my identity as I became that entrepreneur and juggled motherhood simultaneously was definitely a unique process. Right? A unique process. And I know that I don't think anything is exclusive to me, right? Like I understand that we all share so much, so I don't want to go into recycling a lot of the details, or like, zoom in on the details of what it was that was so, I guess, hard, or adversity, right? The adversity, but the challenges that I find so many of us that we can relate to would be just not losing who we are, or giving ourselves permission to find out who we are while we're on this journey of building a business, of juggling relationships, juggling parenthood, and allowing that to be seen even when other people don't understand it. And sometimes that means receiving support or having backlash or not skyrocketing the way that you imagine, right? Like we often dream of like overnight success, but an overnight success is years in the making. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's so I've obviously known you for a little while and followed your
yeah.
story, so I know quite a bit about it, but I know that one thing that you struggled with massively was migraines. Like you had horrible migraines, and my son has them, so I know that that's pretty difficult, and you're a single mom now, so you
Yes.
have this little one that depends on you, but migraines can be pretty debilitating, especially from what I understand what yours were.
Yeah.
And so could you like what that's my adversity that I'm choosing for you, but what
Yeah.
adversity have you answered and how in that way how did you overcome that and really because I'm sure it was a long journey to figure out what worked, what didn't, what made it worse,
Mhm.
and really finding that path for you into what you do.
Grace, 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 grace. So, along with migraines, I didn't really, my migraines are what initiated my Army medical retirement. So, at 28 years old, I was medically retired from active duty after this high speed career that had all of these accolades, all of these awards. I was airborne. I had all of these things like a master fitness trainer and like super soldier, right?
Yeah.
And your mental health and your balancing of all of those other aspects play into the unseen, which also fuel migraines, right? So with the stress of having that label disarmy or disabled Army veteran, now I'm becoming a single mom because during that transition I divorced my then husband. So there was so much stress and so much reframing that I really just hit a wall with those migraines. And, the VA, they do exactly what they can do, which is they play the guessing game with you. They run all of the tests, they try all of the different things. Like I got braces, I got my ear pierced, I did acupuncture, I did all of the things that they were saying. And I just felt so depleted and exhausted. And I didn't really understand where to look anymore because I just was like, there's no hope. I have to figure out how to do this. And you know, for me, quitting was never really in my frame because of how I grew up.
Yeah.
Because I was always in that trauma response of what do I have to do next, right? My hyper independence, my PTSD, my CPTSD, all of that stuff was like, okay, what is that next thing I have to check off in order to survive to get to this next point, this next thing? And so allowing myself to, in 2019, get completely sober and then kind of evaluate, okay, what am I doing with my health and what are my big triggers that I can possibly, if I can't control, I can be aware of them, right?
Yeah.
So shifting my awareness then, and then 2020 hit shortly after. And that is when I really had to like kick my butt into gear and say, okay, now I'm homeschooling because schools are shut down. And my child is at this stage where when she has big emotions, I have to compose myself. So I started getting support. And for me, support looked like taking my daughter to therapy so she could be supported, allowing myself to again go to therapy, but with a different doctor in a different type of therapy, which is really big, especially being a soldier, because we're so often told like the stigma surrounding therapy and mental health and all of that, right? And again, I was that Army super soldier, so that played a big role. Like being in the 82nd Airborne Division and all of that was still very heavily ingrained in my mindset and thinking.
Yeah.
Like you don't go to sick call, you don't go get help. And let me tell you guys, like if you're listening to this, I don't think you understand how ridiculous the mindset of the military is. I was hit by a car during a run. I was a runner. I got hit by a car and I ran to the aid station to get help, like because we were out in the middle of nowhere. So like my body has been through and seen some things, right? And so how that played out and what that looked like was a lot of grace, like, and trial and error, and going into the bathroom with a pillow and screaming into my pillow and just saying, how am I going to do this? Where can I receive help? And I found a mentor. I was doing MLM at the time, and I found a mentor who really just kind of, he was an Army veteran as well at one point, and he really kind of like took me into under his wing, if you will, right? And just was like, have some grace. His wife was amazing. She's amazing. And have some grace. Like you're supported, you're seen, you're loved. And it really allowed me to feel safe long enough to launch Soulpreneur Life the way that my heart desired. And I was doing all of these things behind the scenes that people didn't understand or didn't see. And I was ridiculed online because people wanted you to make them $1 million instead of doing the things for themselves. And when you transition into spirituality and you're seen for that, right?
Yeah.
You're seen for suddenly, I never shared my spiritual practices online to sharing them.
Yeah.
And you have to face that. You have to be seen and say, this is who I'm becoming. This is who I am online. This is what I want to do and how I want to hold space for you, because I've tried and I've trained and I've done all of these things for many years. And the pushback is what the pushback is going to be. And again, that mindset of quitting is not an option was right there. So for me, it wasn't, I have to put my cards down. It was, I cannot put my cards down.
Yeah.
Right? There is someone waiting in quiet desperation to hear what I have to share. And I know this because even though people don't comment on my post, they're in my DMs telling me, oh my God, that resonated, but I can't let my family know. Oh my goodness. When you shared this, it was like you were speaking directly to me. And honestly, it was going through my story. And this is what my mentor shared with me. He was like, so many people get stuck retelling their story that they don't move through it. But the only way out is through. And that's something we learn in the military, right? Like when we're learning about IEDs and things like that and VBIDs, and you have to drive through it. You have to go through it. You can't sit in it. That's where you die.
Yeah.
And that's generational trauma as well, right? So when I look at it that way, I allowed myself grace to heal, to receive support, to, oh, I'm getting chills, but just allow myself to share in a way where I could continue growing and continue healing, right? And I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry, but
No, it's beautiful.
I never want people to look at me and say, oh, she's that influencer, or, oh, she's that person. No, I want people to say, if she can do it, why can't I?
I love that
Right?
so much.
And I wanted to, but I really it really matters to me. And it really matters to me because throughout the majority of my life, I didn't have people to lean on, to trust.
Yeah.
And, along the way, there were earth angels, like guardian angels, who were there for a really short period of time that I wished I could hold on to, but they were there to plant a seed or water a seed or help me to bloom into something different so that I could be open to receive the next thing or open to do the next thing.
I love that so much. And like, because you were taught so to harden so much of yourself throughout the rest of the journey, like being able to kind of crack that shell a little and open back up and really allow yourself to feel that is, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I also have goosebumps. That's so, oh my gosh, I can't even. You talked about how, the never give up was something, a mentality that you had basically forever. What do you think it is about entrepreneurs? Because you are obviously an entrepreneur and have been for a long time, even inside. What do you think it is about us that makes us continue through those challenges without giving up? When it does get tough, when it does feel impossible, when it feels like it's so steep, but we're
Yeah.
gonna get there.
So from my experience, I don't want to speak for everyone, but from my experience and thinking of the people who have found me that I've been honored to help. Um, firstly, quitting was never a thought for me. It was never an option. It was a luxury. The idea of quitting was a luxury, right? The idea of quitting meant like nothing would be taken care of, right? And for me, that's not possible. Like that's what kept me going, especially in the beginning when I was trying to find my footing. It was like, I have a little girl I have to take care of. My mother was killed on the streets. Like I have all of this history and generational stuff that I understand I don't want to replicate, or I don't want my child to be a part of. So for me, that was that thing, right? Quitting was never on the table. um it was just keep going until you figure it out. And I always think of like when we go on these runs in the military, we would run like 35 miles a week or more, plus ruck marching and all of these things. And there would come this point where if I wasn't calling cadence or singing cadence, if we were all quiet, it's because it was one foot in front of the other, right? I didn't look at anything but one foot in front of the other. And when I jumped out of airplanes, it was one foot in front of the other. And so I apply that to a lot of different things when I feel like I don't have it in me to look up and see the big picture. And I feel like I apply that still to this day in a different way with my business. And the people who come and find me, I think that they don't stop. And I think that they invest in support. I think that they invest in themselves or their dreams because they're able to understand the desire isn't the money, right? It's some sort of transformation, healing, peace, mental freedom. And when people are able to grasp that, when they understand it's not about the money or maintaining the money, it's about that feeling that you create for yourself or for others. I think that that's when people are really in their passion and in their flow. And so quitting, it's like, I can't quit. I can't quit because there's someone waiting.
Yeah. Well, I think that's so powerful too. And in the same way, you can translate the one foot in front of your other in that way, it's just one more step. If I grow in this area, it's one more step. So you focus on that instead of, oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Instead of the big picture. So from that then, what takeaway or lesson would you think that other mompreneurs would be able to use from your experience? What overall one takeaway lesson or two, whatever.
One or two. I know I'm so long-winded. I'm a talker.
It's okay,
Oh
me
my
too.
goodness. I feel as though there's many different things that anyone could take away from, depending on the lens that they are using to hear what I have to share. But if I could have a hope for someone to take something away,
Yeah.
my full body has chills. Just understand that whatever it is that you are going through, and I'm being reminded of one of my daughters, her godfather telling me it's always darkest before the dawn. Just remember that whatever it is that you do and however you choose to show up, it's okay. It's right. Mistakes are okay.
Oh, I love that so much. And how many of us don't need to hear that on a daily basis? Like, however you show up. Sometimes it'll be your 100% could be 10% today. Like,
Yeah.
however much you can give is what you're supposed to be able to give. And that's perfect for that day for you. I love that so much.
I
Oh,
love how
that's
you
beautiful.
framed it. It's beautiful.
So if people are interested in learning more about you or working with you and what you do, what's the best way to reach you?
So I'm on Facebook. Obviously, there's a bunch of me and Kendra Boldens out there on social media. But you can find me by my business page. It's Soulpreneur Life. And it'll connect you to Kendra Bolden, my personal page, and my website is soulpreneurlifellc.com. And you can connect with me there to receive a free discovery call and see how we can work together and all of that good stuff.
And I will include the links in the description of everywhere that I have this so that they can access it easier. But in case they're listening, they can hear it and go there from that too. Oh, I'm so excited. This was so wonderful. This was definitely what I needed to hear today. So
I needed to talk with you today too. So I appreciate you for the space and the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a feat trying to get this done, but I appreciate you coming back and sticking through it with me and being here for this because it is much needed. Your story is super inspirational. That's just a tiny glimpse of how inspirational it really is. And your willingness to be open about it is very much appreciated and needed in this space, 100%. So thank you again. I'm so excited. And for those of you out there facing your own adversity, know you are not alone. When you need an extra hand or a mind for brainstorming during your mompreneur journey, we would love to work with you through the Mom Elevated Society as well. You will find monthly check-ins for goal setting and assessing, and so much more for both your business and your mom life. And until next time, keep shooting for the stars.